Hello, this is Amanda Cleland, and today in marketing, we are continuing with chapter 11 on retailing. So we are continuing where we left off. So this is part 2. So we were talking about the different ways that we can categorize different retailers. And we talked about how we can categorize retailers based on their organizational approach. So, although many retail stores are independently owned, others join together under some sort of corporate or contractual organization. So, there are really 4 major types of retail organizations that exist out there. And there are franchise organizations, corporate chains, voluntary chains, and retail cooperatives. Now, we are not going to talk about retail cooperatives in this section. We're primarily going to concentrate on franchise and corporate chains. But let's talk about what these means in terms of their organizational approach. So let's talk about a franchise organization. So we talked about a franchise organization in previous chapters, but franchising is a contractual association between a franchisor and a franchisee. And typically these franchisees, these are independent business people, usually like entrepreneurs, who buy the right to own and operate one or more units in the franchise systems. And franchises are extremely popular in the United States. So franchises now command about 45%, nearly half of all retail sales in the US. So franchises are very, very, very popular and very, very commonplace in our society today. So you probably go to franchises perhaps on a daily basis. So franchise examples include places like 7-Eleven, which is a convenience store, McDonald's, KFC, these are fast food places, Holiday Inn, this is a hotel, Planet Fitness, this is a fitness center, a gym, the UPS store, Great Clips, where you can get your hair cut. So franchises are not just fast food places. They include all sorts of different kinds of retailing in terms of services, in terms of products sold. It's a wide variety. And franchising, again, it covers more than just fast food burger joints and fitness centers. Franchises have really sprung up in recent years to meet pretty much any need. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the very unique franchises that now exist out there. So there is something called a Mad Science Group. This is a franchise. And what this franchise does is they put on science programs for schools and birthday parties. When you're looking for some sort of activity for kids, Mad Science Group is a franchise that you can own and operate that will put on these different types of programs. Soccer Shots. This is a franchise that offers programs that provide kids an introduction to soccer at places like schools, places like daycare, where they can learn how to play soccer. Mr. Handyman. This is a franchise that provides repair service for homeowners who either don't know how to do it themselves or don't have the time. Mary Maid. This is a franchise that provides housekeeping services. You could do it for a home or even your office. Mosquito Joe. This is a franchise that rids homeowners, their yards, their homes of pests, primarily mosquitoes. This is mostly in the southern region where they've got a lot of mosquitoes. But you can see how franchises, a wide variety of different products and services that they can really provide. And you see here, the really unique ones are really more in the service industry. And then our next type of organization is a corporate chain. Now, this is usually the types of retailers that we think of. These are the big retailers. These are 2 or more outlets that are commonly owned and controlled. So corporate chains have a lot of advantages over independents. They've got size on their side. So this large size, just the sheer volume that they have allows them to buy in really large quantities at lower prices. So they're going to get really good economies of scale. And they can hire a specialist to deal in things like pricing, things like promoting, promotion, things like merchandising, inventory control, and sales forecasting. They can have a specialist in each of those areas. Whereas if you have a smaller business or you're an independent retailer, you may have to be doing all of this by yourself. And you're not as specialized in it. You may not have the ability to focus as much. So this is the advantage that corporate chains have in this department. And corporate chains, they're going to appear in all types of retailing, but they really are the strongest in department stores, discount stores, food stores, drugstores, and restaurants. So some examples of corporate chains. Macy's, this is a corporate chain that is a department store. Target, this is a corporate chain that's a discount store. Kroger, this is a corporate chain that's a grocery store. CVS, this is a corporate chain that is a drugstore. Starbucks, this is a corporate chain that is a restaurant. Many people think that Starbucks is a franchise, but it is not. All the Starbucks locations are corporate owned. You cannot franchise a Starbucks. So Starbucks is a corporate chain. And let's talk a little bit about the evolution of corporate chains because they are so important to retailing today and how we buy. So let's talk a little bit about the history of how really corporate chains came to be, how this evolution came to be. So until about the late 1800s, retailing was pretty much a mom and pop industry in the US. And I'm sure you've heard the term mom and pop. Mom and pop is really a colloquial kind of American term used to describe a very small, family-owned, usually an independent business. And in each US town back in this time period, there usually was a general store, a mom and pop owned general store that would serve all the retailing needs of the local community. And unfortunately, the process of the general store was very labor intensive. Usually the consumer would tell the clerk who was behind the shelf what they wanted. And then the clerk, who's usually a man, he would go behind and he fetched it from the shelves behind the counter. So there was no self-service there. You had to tell them exactly what you wanted. So it was a lot more labor intensive than the kind of shopping and retailing we're used to now. And the product selection was very limited and would vary wildly from store to store. Foods like pickles and crackers were often sold out of very unsanitary and sometimes insect infected open barrels. So you'd have bugs crawling around in there. And think about it. If you had all of your food in barrels, people are just reaching their dirty old hands in there, taking scoops of stuff. So it was a very unsanitary way to handle food as well. And this is actually the restaurant Cracker Barrel. This is actually where the name Cracker Barrel originated from, because in these old-timey general stores, there used to be a barrel of crackers. And to get the products actually to the general store, to this mom and pop general store, the products had to go through a lot of different intermediaries and middlemen en route from the factory to the consumer. And this really increased the costs of distribution. And of course, those prices are then passed on to the consumer, and the prices were relatively high. So ambitious entrepreneurs wanted to find a better way to do things. There had to be a better way of distribution where there was going to be less waste, better quality, more uniform products so you knew what to expect every time you bought, and lower prices. There had to be a better way than what we were doing now. So the first major retail chains in the US evolved primarily in the grocery store business. And this was during, again, the late 1800s. So what is considered the first big retail chain is the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company. And the nickname for the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company was the A&P. And they had 200 grocery stores by 1900. And only 25 years later, in 1925, they went from 200 stores in 1900 to more than 14,000 stores by 1925. So they saw explosive growth in the first 25 years of the 1900s. And they were originally founded to sell tea from China at really low prices by eliminating those middlemen, those intermediaries. And then A&P decided to enter coffee and other food business to really expand their selection. And it was really remarkable in a world that at this point in time, the United States didn't even have a national paved highway system. We didn't have highways to get from one end of the country to the other. We didn't have computerized systems to keep track of all of our inventory. So it's pretty wild how the A&P was able to grow their business so quickly and by so much. And by the 1920s, A&P was one of only a handful of billion-dollar companies in the world in the 1920s. So they were doing really good. And other big chains, people saw what A&P were doing. And so other companies decided to follow suit. So other big chains started launching in the early 19th century, and they included J.C. Penney, which is now a rather defunct department store, but it was very successful in the early 20th century. F.W. Woolworth, S.S. Kreese, W.T. Grant, Kroger, Safeway. We talked about Kroger and Safeway in our largest retailers. They were big in the grocery section and still are. They're both one of the top 10 largest retailers in the United States. So some of these companies are still around today. Now, some are not, but some still are. So again, we're seeing the beginning of corporate change starting to grow and expand and change how we buy, and usually for the better. So there were two big mail order companies. These were like the Amazon of the late 1800s. So instead of going online, you don't have a store near you, you're going to go on Amazon, have something delivered to your door. This was the equivalent of that back in the 1800s. You would get a catalog in the mail and you would order from it, and things would show up in the mail. So there were two big mail order companies that were corporate chains. That is Montgomery Ward, which was founded in 1872, and Sears Roebuck, which was founded in 1893. They also started opening physical stores in the 1920s. So they went from being entirely mail order to actually opening their own physical brick and mortar stores. And the Sears and Ward's catalog really primarily served farmers, ranchers, small town residents where they lived in very rural, kind of austere areas where they didn't have access to good stores. And they provided them with better quality products at really low prices. So again, this was improving the way people could live, how much they could buy back in this time. So now we're going to talk about omni-channel retailing. And when I say omni-channel, I'm talking about how are we as marketers going to blend that in-store, that online, that mobile, that social media channel, all of that buying experience into one. This is what we mean by omni-channel retailing. So omni-channel retailing, we have been talking extensively about how retail shopping really has changed in recent years, and it's changed very radically. So it used to be, back in the day, 30, 40, 50 years ago, you would go to the store, physical brick and mortar store, or perhaps you would flip through catalogs, and that was the only way that you could gather information about products, that you could make price comparisons, and ultimately actually purchase products. However, now things are different. You've got the website, you've got the internet right at your fingertips, you've got smartphones, we've got social media, we've got mobile apps where we can compare pricing, we can gather unlimited product information about something that we're looking at. We can purchase products from the convenience of our homes. Shopping now involves this vast array of channels and platforms. So it's really changed how we buy. And this massive shift in how people shop calls for massive shifts in how retailers operate. And we as marketers need to be aware of this. We as consumers have gotten used to being able to research and being able to purchase anywhere and anytime. You could do it from your toilet at 2 a.m. You could literally do it in the store when you're there in the middle of the day. You can buy, you can research, you can buy in the physical store, online, on the go, or even you get online while you're physically in the store. The boundaries between in-store and online retailing are really rapidly blurring. So omni-channel buying calls for omni-channel retailing. This is what we need to be aware of as marketers. omni-channel buying calls for omni-channel retailing. Omni-channel retailing means that we want to integrate all available shopping channels and devices into one single seamless customer shopping experience. We want to take all those different channels that all of our consumers have access to, that they research, that they seek product information, that they do pricing comparisons on, that they purchase from, and we want to integrate it into one seamless shopping experience for them. This is omni-channel retailing. And the increasing share of growth in online sales is being captured by omni-channel retailers. Those companies who are really successfully merging the virtual and the physical worlds. And physical store operators, those companies that have primarily brick and mortar locations, are expanding to the digital world via websites, mobile apps, and social media. To be successful and to continue to operate at this day and age, you have to have an online presence. And many companies are finding that just having an online presence is enough. They also need to have a physical presence as well. Online merchants, including Amazon. Amazon is the biggest online retailer in the world. They are actually moving into the physical world. They have showrooms. They have pop-ups. They have their own brick and mortar stores and other ways of meeting shoppers face to face. They have a couple of Amazon style stores, physical brick and mortar stores. I believe there's one in Ohio and one in California where you can buy apparel. They have Amazon Fresh stores, which are essentially brick and mortar grocery stores. They have Amazon Go stores where, using specialized technology, you don't even need to physically check out because there are so many cameras and smart technology around the store that it will detect what you have picked up and put in your basket and will charge you without you having to even deal with the cashier. But again, they're creating stores that are brick and mortar in the physical space. They don't just have an online presence. And most large retailers are now boosting their own online and digital selling options by somehow linking them to stores. So Walmart, they've really increased its emphasis on in-store pickups and free 2-day delivery. So you can purchase things on Amazon.com and then pick it up in stores, or you could have curbside pickup. So customers now actually pick up half of all Walmart.com purchases in the stores. And that's a good thing too, because often when they go into the store to pick it up, they're going to buy additional merchandise during that visit. So Walmart is trying to get people to buy online, but also still come into their store. Again, that seamless experience. Walmart, Target, Macy's, other big retailers, they're really focusing on mobile apps that are going to pull the customer both to their website and to their physical stores. And mobile apps help customers prepare shopping lists. It helps them check prices. It helps locate merchandise in stores and even offers certain discount and coupons. I know personally, when I shop at Walmart, especially if it's a really specialized item that I don't usually shop for, I will pull up the Walmart app to figure out which aisle it's in. Instead of having to ask someone who works at Walmart, because sometimes they're very hard to find, I'll just pull out my phone and I will figure out where this item is. And also, I know personally, I pay for things via the Walmart app because I get an additional discount. So I'm constantly using the Walmart mobile app even when I'm in the physical store. And 10% of Walmart purchases are done via mobile devices while that mobile device is actually in the Walmart store. So people are buying things while they're physically in the store from their phone. So pretty remarkable. This is what I mean by omni-channel retailing. And social media. Now we're all on social media these days. Even if you're only on for a brief time every day, or you're only on one specific platform, social media is a huge part of our lives, and is also a huge part of omni-channel retailing. So let's just look at some of these stats that came from our book. So 30% of shoppers purchased via social media last year. How many of you saw a product on TikTok or on Instagram or a haul that someone got where they're showing off what they got from Temu or Amazon and thought, oh, I need to get that? 30% of shoppers purchased something that they saw on social media last year. 44% discovered new products via their social networks, and 49% made purchases based on referrals from social media. These are astounding statistics in terms of how powerful social media is in terms of getting people to buy things. Most large store retailers are going to be using social media extensively to engage their customers, build that community, and link buyers to their websites and stores. Now let's talk about retailer marketing decisions. Let's talk about the marketing mix in terms of retailing. So now we've talked extensively about our marketing mix, our 4Ps: product, price, place, promotion. So as retailers, we first got to segment and define our target markets. Then we've got to decide how we're going to differentiate ourselves and position ourselves in these different markets using our 4Ps, our marketing mix: product, price, place, promotion. So how are we going to do that? So in terms of product, we're looking at our first P. Retailers have to decide on three major product variables. We've got our product assortment, we've got our services mix, and we've got our store atmosphere. These are the three major product variables we need to decide on in order to differentiate ourselves and position ourselves accordingly. These decisions based on product, more than any others out there, can help physical retailers, physical brick and mortar retailers, differentiate themselves from online sellers. If we are brick and mortar only, we've got to leverage our assets that the Amazons and the other online retailers can't match. We could also use private brands, personal service, physical in-store experiences. So our product assortment has to differentiate ourselves while also matching our target shoppers' expectations. So one strategy that retailers could use is to offer a very highly targeted product assortment. So Lane Bryant, they are an apparel store. They only carry plus size clothing. If you are a size 0 or a size 2, you are not going to shop at Lane Bryant. But if you are a larger size person, you're going to be shopping at Lane Bryant. Very highly targeted, very specific subset of customers that they are targeting. Battery Depot, they only offer car batteries, but they offer pretty much every kind of car battery made. Very highly targeted assortment. Or we could differentiate ourselves by offering merchandise that no other competitor carries. We are going to be the only ones that offer this. Perhaps we're going to own exclusive rights to a certain brand. For example, Kohl's. They have exclusive rights for brands like Simply Vera by Vera Wang and Food Network Kitchen Tools. They also have their own private labels like Sonoma Candies, Croft and Barrel for apparel types of things. So we've got the two things we could do are offer highly targeted product assortment or offering merchandise that no other competitor carries. Only we have it. We can also look at our services mix. Our services mix can help us as retailers set us apart from all of our competitors. So what services and what level of services do we offer our consumers? So Home Depot, they offer a very diverse mix of services. They have how-to classes. They have kids workshops. They even have a proprietary credit card when you're looking at the services that they offer. Nordstrom, they deliver really top-notch services, and they promise that they're going to take care of the customer no matter what it takes. My stepmom loves Nordstrom because she loves the personal attention that she gets there, and the services she receives when she goes shopping. And the store atmosphere. This is a really important element in the retailer's toolbox, especially it's going to differentiate a brick and mortar retailer from an online retailer. So retailers want to create a really unique store experience and one that is going to suit the target market we're aiming for and ideally is going to move the customer to buy. So we've got to think about like the physical store atmosphere. So what is the store's layout? What is the display? What is the lighting like? Is it really bright? Is it really dim? What kind of music is playing? Is it loud? Is it soft? What is the genre? What are the colors that are in the store? What does it smell like? A lot of times, again, when we go into a store, we kind of take it for granted that this is random, but most of these different attributes of the store atmosphere have really been carefully orchestrated to shape the customer shopping experience and ideally get them to buy. So let's look at a few examples. So what I've got pictured here is the Apple store. And just taking a look at it, it's very sleek. It's very utilitarian. It's kind of like futuristic looking. It's bright. It's clean. It doesn't feel like that typical retail experience. You don't see a cash register. A lot of times with the Apple store, they'll have clear glass on the outside. And so it kind of has like the feeling of FOMO, of fear of missing out. If you're on the outside, you're looking in and you're seeing all these people in here. Kind of has almost like a town hall gathering place experience. Again, not the typical retail store. They're setting them apart. They're trying to differentiate themselves in a certain way by creating a unique store atmosphere at Apple. And then we've got Barnes and Noble. So I like reading. I love bookstores. So think about the atmosphere of a Barnes and Noble. So the lighting is slightly less intense than other stores. So it's a little bit dimmer, has kind of that cozy feel. There's lots of armchairs and kind of nook cranny areas to sit down and read, get really comfortable with the book. There's usually a coffee shop or a bakery connected. You're going to get the smell of pastries and coffee and new books in the air. Usually it's very soft, relaxing music, kind of a quieter atmosphere. Now, if you're a bookworm, this is going to compel you to buy. You're going to start reading books. You're going to get sucked into them and you're going to want to buy them. So they create a really unique experience. It's going to engage their target customers and try to get them to buy. And then we've got Hollister. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Hollister, this is a clothing store usually geared towards younger people, usually high school, college, 20-somethings. When malls were very popular, these were very popular stores. So if you have ever been in Hollister, it is very dark. And I've got some pictures of Hollister in here. It's very dark, low lighting. Usually they got really loud, pumping, kind of like techno-y type music with like heavy bass. It smells really heavily of like a cologne and perfume. It really makes you feel like you're at the club or you're at the bar and like you're out kind of partying. So it kind of creates that environment that really is perfect for the age range and kind of their target customers of young people, what they're trying to get them to buy. And then we've got Target. So if you've ever been in a Target, you notice that their signature color red is everywhere. And there's some unique psychology about the color of red. So red really triggers a sense of speed and impulse. It really captivates attention and is associated with action and excitement. And Target also wants to be perceived as a more upscale brand than Walmart. So everything is much more color coordinated, even down to like the carts, the checkouts, and the signs. So the red color makes it look a lot more organized, a lot more coordinated and professional looking. And the color red also has kind of that impulse to make you buy things. If you've ever gone into Target and thought, why am I buying way more than I thought I would buy? It may have something to do with the psychology of the color red that is everywhere in a Target, even down to the shirts that the associates wear. And then we've got Costco. Now, we talked about our warehouse clubs. You actually have to purchase a membership to shop here. But think about what a Costco looks like. And if you've never been in a Costco, I've got some pictures of what kind of a Costco looks like. Literally, you're in a warehouse. It's spacious. It's, again, very utilitarian. It's literally just boxes of stuff stacked on top of each other. And everything is big. The carts are bigger. There's big product size. Like you have to buy in bulk. There's big aisles, big shelves. Products are stacked all the way to the ceiling, so you really lose sense of size when you're in there and kind of just end up buying bigger volumes because you've lost sense of like what is a normal size. They also don't label the aisles, so you don't know what's down every aisle. There's no store map, and they also move things around a lot. So it's kind of like you're almost on like a treasure hunt, and you get lost in there, and you end up doing a lot more wandering and doing a lot more impulse shopping than you would if you would have known exactly where to go for the one thing you came in there for. Another unique thing that Costco does is they give a lot of samples. And there's actually a reason, a psychological reason why they tend to give a lot of samples. So this is the feeling of reciprocity. So when you get a sample from Costco, you feel indebted to them, even if it's just a little, cocktail weenie on a toothpick. You somehow feel indebted to Costco and feel like you have to buy more. So some unique features about the physical space of Costco that gets you to buy more. And then we're going to move on to price. So our price policy has to fit our target market and positioning, the product and service assortment that we have, the competition, and the economic factors. So most retailers are going to seek either really high markups on lower volume. So think of like your specialty store, they're going to be higher prices, lower volume, or they're going to have low markups and high volume. Think of your mass merchandisers, your discount stores, your Walmarts, lower prices, but high volume. And retailers must decide on the extent to which they're going to use sales and other price promotions. So some retailers use a practice of high-low pricing, where they charge higher prices on an everyday basis, coupled with frequent sales to increase traffic. So Macy's does this, Kohl's does this, JCPenney does this, where they're going to have sales to try to lure you in. And other retailers use practices like everyday low pricing, where they are charging every day, they're charging constant prices every day, and they're pretty low, and they have very few sales or discounts. Think Walmart, think Costco, think Aldi, think Family Dollar. They typically never have sales because they already have pretty low prices to begin with. And some retailers are going to use no price promotions at all. Instead, they're going to compete on non-price factors like the product, the service quality, instead of on price. So now we're going to talk about our third P, promotion. So retailers have to use various combinations of promotion tools to reach customers. We've got to reach them via advertising, could be personal selling, sales promotions, public relations, PR, and direct and social media marketing. So advertising could be things like advertisements in the traditional mediums like newspapers, magazines, radio, and television. Sales promotions could include in-store demonstrations, could be different displays, could be sales, could be loyalty programs for our customers that are buying frequently. Our PR activities could include trying to advertise new store openings, having special events, sending out newsletters. And most retailers are also going to interact digitally with customers via their websites, via online ads, social media, and email. And almost every retailer today, small or large, is going to maintain some sort of social media presence. And especially if you're in a big company, you will 100% have a full social media presence, probably updating multiple times daily on every single platform that is out there. And our fourth P, place. So store retailers must look, when it comes to place, at three critical factors in retailing success. And that is number one, location, number two, location, and number three, location. So it's location, location, location. It's important that retailers select locations that are accessible to the target market and are in areas that are consistent with the retailer's positioning. So we've got to be consistent with the retailer's positioning, and it's got to be accessible to the people that we are targeting. So Apple locates its stores in very high-end malls and really trendy shopping districts. So I've got a picture here of the Apple store in Chicago. So they have a big store in the Magnificent Mall in Chicago that's kind of on the riverfront, or in New York City, they've got it in Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. Apple does not place their stores in kind of low rent strip malls on the edges of town or in bad locations. They are always in upscale places and in high end locations, because that mirrors kind of their pricing and their product positioning. That they're a higher end, that they're going to demand higher prices. Again, they're not going to be in lower end cheap types of places. On the other side of the spectrum, Trader Joe's, they typically place their stores in more lower rent, kind of out of the way location. And this is to keep their costs down and really support what they call their cheap gourmet positioning. So they are not going to be in Fifth Avenue or on the Magnificent Mall in Chicago. They're going to be more kind of out of the way so that they can keep their pricing lower. And most stores today are going to cluster together to increase their customer pulling power and give consumers the convenience of one-stop shopping, right? We just would prefer just to go to one place, get all our shopping done, instead of having to drive around town and go to many different stores. So it's very common for stores today to cluster together. And when they cluster together like this, they're going to form a shopping center. And a shopping center, this is a group of retail businesses that are all built on a site that is planned, that is developed, that is owned, and it is managed all as a unit. Now, we used to see tons of shopping centers. Malls were a big thing. The past few years have brought really hard times for a lot of shopping centers. So the United States has long been what we're going to say over-malled. Between 1970 and 2015, U.S. malls grew at a rate of 2 times that of the rate of our population. So we just had too many malls. And again, in the last 15 years, we've really seen the increase of online shopping. So online shopping has really siphoned off shoppers and reduced the need to even visit any of these malls. So department stores and specialty chains have announced these record store closings. Vacancy rates at the nation's enclosed malls have really soared. We've seen tons of these pictures of these dead malls, these just vacant malls that no longer have any shopping taking place in them. So these shopping centers, especially like the traditional enclosed mall, with the food court and the flagship department stores, these are really coming upon hard times. Although the largest and best regional malls are still prospering. So there's probably, especially wherever you live, there's probably one really big mall within the region that is still doing really good. But the smaller, weaker regional malls are suffering. And think of all these stores that are going out of business. So big box retailers like Kmart, Circuit City, Borders, Linen and Things, they've all gone out of business. Other stores like Best Buy, Barnes and Nobles, Office Depot, they're still in business, but they've had to greatly reduce the number and the size of their stores. And according to one prediction, one out of every 4 US malls is going to be out of business by 2024, by next year. That's pretty sad, just to have all that empty space. Despite these grim predictions, the future for malls is bright. Traditional malls are really trying to reinvent themselves to meet the changing need of shoppers, right? We all know that we can just go online and find everything we need. We don't necessarily have to go to the mall. So there has to be some other type of reason why we would go to the mall. So a lot of malls are adding kind of lifestyle elements. They're adding fitness centers. They're adding restaurants. They're adding children play areas. They're adding kind of common areas, multiplex theaters. They're trying to make malls seem more social, these social places, and more welcoming. And today's centers are more like places to hang out rather than just places to shop. So we're going to watch a little video about the rise and the fall of malls. And again, many of you may have grown up going to the malls or seeing movies or shows from the 80s where the malls were the biggest thing. So let's watch a video about how malls came to be and kind of their rise and how they're falling today and what we can do about it.
This is what many of America's malls look like today. Empty, eerie, dead. And while the pandemic has most people avoiding indoor gathering spaces, social distancing is not what emptied out the mall. This footage is from 2018. For decades, the mall was both an economic and social hub, and for many, a way of life. Now, many malls in the United States have either collapsed or are on the verge. So how did we go from this to this? The story of the mall begins in the 1950s, when America was experiencing an unprecedented economic boom. The middle class had more money to spend than ever before, and they were spending it on houses and cars. Along with this came Eisenhower's Federal Aid Highway Act, which meant that people could drive to their jobs in the cities while living in a new kind of development, the suburbs. Suburban populations rose astronomically, but they lacked what sociologist Ray Oldenburg called third places. Under this model, home is the first place where you live. The second place is the workplace. And third places are the vital spaces where people go to exchange ideas, form relationships, and create communities. This could be a park, a bar, or in today's times, social media platforms. In other words, the third place is a place to hang out. Enter Victor Gruen, a man who would later become the king of retail for the era. Gruen, who ironically was a staunch socialist, had already made a name for himself in America designing boutique shops and storefronts, but now wanted to create something far more ambitious, an indoor downtown. And what would prove to be his boldest and most enduring project yet, Gruen set about designing the mall. On October 8, 1956, America's first indoor mall, the Southdale Center in Edina, Minnesota, opened its doors. Like no building ever constructed before, the Southdale Center not only had shops, but fountains, art installations, a bird sanctuary, and a sprawling courtyard, all within a single indoor complex. The mall received mostly rave reviews, deeming it an attraction on par with Disneyland, which had just opened a year earlier in 1955. Walt Disney himself even cited Gruen as his main influence for the ideas behind Epcot. With Southdale all over the news, everyone wanted to go to the mall. Malls began springing up in every American suburb, along with large shopping center mall hybrids and everything in between. By 1960, just 4 years after Gruen's first mall, there were 4,500 large shopping complexes in the United States, which averages to at least 3 new shopping centers opening every day. By 1975, malls and shopping centers accounted for 33% of all retail sales in America. But Gruen's utopian vision for the mall had not been realized. Cheap food courts were installed where courtyards were supposed to be. Instead of cosmopolitan communities, developers often surrounded malls with enormous parking lots and suburban housing projects, exactly what Gruen was trying to thwart. Whereas the mall was designed to be the communal remedy for suburban individualism, it instead became its most potent catalyst.
Small moments. Or shout till you drop game that really talk.
And the 1980s began the mall's golden age.
Work in the theater. All the actions on the other side of the mall.
Shopping complexes continued to build at a rate of over 1,000 per year. And in 1986, Consumer Reports named the shopping mall, alongside the birth control pill, antibiotics, and the personal computer, one of the top 50 wonders that has revolutionized the lives of consumers. Movies, board games, and even concert tours all centered around the mall. 80s teenagers even looked at the mall as a place to which they could escape and socialize, as was epitomized in the cult classic movie Mallrats.
I love the smell of commerce in the morning.
The American Mall would reach its peak in 1992 with its final evolution, the Mega Mall. Fittingly, in the same state as America's first mall, the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota spans a whopping 5.6 million square feet, with over 500 stores, a theme park with 27 rides, an aquarium, a wedding chapel, and a movie theater. The mega mall was immensely profitable. Reports showed that consumers were 50% more likely to buy something at an attraction-filled mega mall than at a regular mall, leading to several more mega malls being built across the 50 states. But mega malls' gargantuan size, coupled with an unsustainable rate of construction, would lead to the collapse of the mall itself. Although thousands of malls of all different shapes and sizes were built in the latter half of the 20th century, the basic mall layout had remained the same since 1956. Two large department stores at either end, connected by smaller shops in between. The bookending department stores are known as anchor stores and serve as the main attractions for the rest of the mall. With so many malls being built in close proximity to one another, the newer malls would often poach the department stores from the older ones nearby. Stores like Macy's or Sears would relocate to bigger, more popular roller coaster riding mall locations, and the older malls, without their anchors, would be left to drift away and drown. As the 2000s progressed, consumer habits shifted away from the department store altogether. Macy's, for instance, has been steadily closing stores since 2005, most of them in malls. Department store-sized vacancies are difficult to refill, and with other, better malls often nearby, there is little that can be done to save a failing mall, which is why hundreds of malls have already been pronounced dead. The dead mall has even become its own aesthetic, capturing the imaginations of several internet photographers and filmmakers. The 2017 Credit Suisse report estimated that 1 in 4 US malls would close by 2022. As foot traffic declined, developers believed the future of the mall to be less about shopping and more about the extravagant experiences offered by the biggest mega malls: bowling alleys, laser tag, go-karts, and other activities that could only be found outside the house. Investors were hopeful that this would be achieved with the creation of the American Dream Mega Mall in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Opened in 2019, this behemoth houses not only a theme park, but also a water park, an ice rink, and an indoor skiing complex. But in a world of social distancing, even America's most spectacular malls are floundering. As of June 2020, the Mall of America was unable to meet its billion-dollar mortgage payments for the second straight month, and the American Dream had laid off 100 employees. Will malls ever recover their mainstay status in American culture, or will we look to new types of third places in our post-pandemic future? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: there is plenty of space for something new. We reached out to the Mall of America and the American Dream Mega Mall, but received no response.
And that is it for retailing. Thank you so much for joining. And that is it. Thank you.